So for this next problem, we initially see that this is kind of looking like a trig identity. And so if we're not sure, we can always check. We can always check by starting with the first original trig identity. And then secant is 1 over cosine. So we're going to go through and divide everything by cosine squared. And we're going to simplify. So sine squared or cosine squared is tan squared theta. That's a 1, and that is secant squared theta. Now here I have secant squared theta minus 1, and so if I simply subtract 1 from here, I get tan squared theta. And so I can go ahead and replace or substitute secant squared theta minus 1 with tan squared theta. So cotan squared theta times tan squared theta, and these are reciprocals of each other, or if you can't see it, we can always rewrite this in terms of sine and cosine. So cosine squared theta over sine squared theta is cotan, and sine squared theta over cosine squared theta is tan. Sines cancels, cosines cancel, and I get 1 is equal to 1. All right, looking at the next problem. We have two things here, right? So we can either work on the right or we can work on the left. And so we start with the left side. We have cosecant squared theta over cotan. So there's two things we can do. We can rewrite them in terms of sine and cosine and see where that takes us. And so we have cosecant is 1 over cosine squared theta on line. 1 over sine squared theta, and then cotan theta is equal to cosine theta over sine theta. And we have a fraction inside a fraction. How do we fix it? So we have the numerator, which is 1 over sine squared theta, times the reciprocal of the denominator. The reciprocal is going to be sine theta over cosine theta. So notice how one of the signs cancels, and I'm left with 1 over sine theta cosine theta, and so they're multiplying, so I can rewrite both of these as 1 over sine theta times 1 over cosine theta, and 1 over sine theta is cosecant theta, 1 over cosine theta is secant theta, which is exactly what they were asking us to show that ends up with. All right, so this next problem, again, we can work on the left or we can work on the right. So let's do it both ways and kind of just see how that works. So looking at the left side, not much we can do, but we can multiply this over, multiply that over, and I'm also going to change this to 1 over sine x. And so when I multiply it over, I get cosecant x on the left side. There's a big minus sign. Then I have sine x there. Now on the denominator, when I multiply these two, I have sine x times cosecant, which is the same thing as saying 1 over sine x. And if you notice, they cancel. So I get cosecant x minus sine x over 1 over 1, or 1 over 1, which is kind of redundant, right? So it's cosecant x minus sine x. And that's exactly what we were trying to get to, right? So that's that. The other thing we can do is work on the right side. So if we start off again and look on the right side, cosecant is 1 over sine x. And then I can rewrite sine as 1 over cosecant x. And that's that.